Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I'm back with another stepped up emergency card kit. We're working with kit 34. This has adulting awards for its first set of sentiments, sort of funny and snarky. Quitter of the year, drove by the gym. We have them in 1 3/4 inch circle sentiments with a printed circle and without, and rectangle sentiments and 4 fonts of strip sentiments. We also have retirement sentiments. I got lots of requests for that, again with the circle, without the circle. And then in our rectangles and our 4 fonts for strip sentiments. There's also a card sketch in this kit. If you enjoy these free printed sentiments and the card sketch and inspiration, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified every time there's a new free kit. So here's the card sketch, and I'm going to modify this just a little bit. We're going to skip that oval layer just to simplify things a little bit. So I have a piece of 4 by 5 1/4 inch patterned paper, and I'm going to glue that onto my A2 panel. I like wet glue for this. It just gives me a chance to wiggle things around and make sure I get it centered and very straight because we're working with stripes. Then we're working with the ribbon Rosette from Trinity Stamps. This is new. And I've cut 3 of these big pieces, and there are score lines. You want that first score line to be a mountain fold, and then you're just going to accordion fold back and forth. Once I get it started, I like to flip it over, and this goes pretty quickly. I'm using 65-pound cardstock, and it still has a lot of bulk, like good bulk, right? It's a ribbon, and we're going to make this a magnet keepsake. It's a birthday card from a baby sister, and I think she's going to love it. So I am adding a little bit of glue to the tiny tab on the right, and I'm attaching the next strip of the ribbon. I like wet glue for this, and when I go to attach the next piece, I like to kind of fold everything up into that accordion, just check and make sure it looks right, like it's not out of line with the rest of those folds. And then I have a little bit of foam tape, and I'm going to cut it to about 1.5 inches around, just a circle of foam. If you have a foam that works well for this, great. Altenew is hands down the stickiest foam tape I own, and I own a lot of foam tape. So I just want this small enough to hide behind the center piece when we go to put everything together. I'm also adding double-sided tape. I'm using Scor-Tape, hands down the stickiest tape I own. And it's just going to fold kind of over the top of itself. Not a big deal. I'm not putting individual pieces. I don't have time for that. I'm going to take this off with my little pokey tool, and then I'm going to start folding, but I'm folding gently, right? I want to make sure everything's going to fit together okay. And it can get a little tricky if everything's super stuck together, and then you go to try to add glue at the very end here, okay? So you can see me kind of like holding things, and it's going to break kind of in the middle. If I had pressed really hard with that double-sided tape, it wouldn't allow for that break, and this glue would get trickier. Now, I made a mistake. I did not hold that glue long enough. I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to try to like shape this before that glue is set. And so there's a weird buckle in part of my rosette, but I wasn't doing it over. Guys, it's finals week. I'm a college professor. My kids just got out of school. There's no way. We weren't starting again, but heads up, make sure your glue is dry. So I just added a 3/4 inch circle foam tab in the middle just to fill it in, right? There's a lot of empty space in there, but you could probably skip that. Then I'm removing the release paper from my circle and adding that as well. I'll put another one of the smaller circles on the back, and I'm good to go, and I can start decorating. I'm going to remove the release paper again from my larger circle of foam, and this piece goes in the middle. It comes in that ribbon rosette. And then there are a ton of other sentiments you can put in the middle. The base set comes with happy birthday, best friend, congrats, but there's add-ons for baby and mom, and I think there's more coming. But the minute I got this, I checked to see if an emergency sentiment would fit, and it does beautifully. So that's what we're going to do. I am layering up the pieces for the flags on my ribbon. These, again, come in the die set, and I'm just going to try to get my placement right here. Once I think the flags overlap correctly, I'll go ahead and glue those together. I want to be able to deal with the whole thing as a single piece. We're going to put some magnets in this so you can pull it off the card and stick it on your fridge or your file cabinet or whatever you've got. So I'm going to go ahead and attach those flags with wet glue to the back, and then we'll add 1 layer of cardstock. This is just a 2-inch circle like the sentiment mats we use all the time. And then we'll start working on the other pieces. Okay, so I'm going to hold that. I'm going to make sure everything's attached really well. It's got all that folded paper. I want to make sure she's sturdy. And then here is our card base. This black piece is on the card sketch. It is the gray rectangle that measures 2 3/4 of an inch by 5 inches. And I'm looking to create the same margin on the top and bottom and on the left. I have my stripes to help me, and I love that. Then I have 3 pieces that are 2.5 by 4 3/4. One of them I ran through the classic backdrop embossing folder, and it's been on my desk like that for months, so we're going to use it. I added one of those pieces with removable adhesive to the center of the black rectangle. Then I'm taking a 2-inch circle and I'm punching 2 holes at the top and at the bottom, and it's going to be really important that they line up on the top and bottom of our rosette. We're going to embed magnets in the rosette and in that rectangle. So I'm holding everything together with my rosette, and I added a little removable adhesive on the piece where I punched out my circles, and I will press that down onto my card. Then I'm going to use a pencil to mark where the magnets will go, right? We need them to line up together. Otherwise, that ribbon could be anywhere on the card. It could get really weird. So I'm going to add glue all over the back of this, and then because my brain is exhausted this week, I'm going to try to add it onto my card. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's too soon. Add it onto another 2-inch circle, and I'm going to punch holes in those that align with the first one, okay? Then we're going to punch holes through that second layer. If you can punch through 2 layers at the same time, great. But I know some of us can't some days. That's me. So I like to do it this way. Then I'm going to line that up on my ribbon and make sure that I see those pencil holes perfectly through the holes that I punched. When I pull that light blue rectangle off, I'm going to punch holes exactly through those pencil marks, and I'm going to mark the top of this so I don't make the same mistake again. When I add my glue, I go very carefully around those holes to make sure that there's lots of glue and the magnets are not going to come out. It's just a safety thing for me. My kids don't have to worry about it. Most of the people I'm giving these to don't have to worry about it, but just in case. So again, I'm layering this too thick. This is all 100-pound cardstock. You can get away with 1 layer, but I still think you can slightly feel the magnets in there. Okay, so this is a magnet from Total Element. I've been using them a lot lately. I promise I've got cards that don't coming up here. I'm adding 2 of them inside of those holes in the rosette, and they are completely flush. They are as thick as 2 layers of cardstock. I like to add tape just to keep them in there because they want to jump to each other. They are so strong. I have a hard time setting them down if I still have one in my hand because they stick to my hand, to the backs of my fingers. Then I will close up that ribbon rosette. Here, I'm going to add glue onto the top of this blue rectangle, and I'm going to cover it up with my embossed panel. In theory, these would be the same shade of blue, but I didn't have that, so I'm just using whatever's close. I'm going to take this piece and flip it over and lay it on the rosette, and then I want those magnets to jump towards the rosette so I know what side is the attractive side and what's going to repel. Note that these are set together the same way they would be on the card. They're just upside down. That's really, really important. So I have my 2 magnets in there. I've covered them up with a little tape. I just use micro pour tape. I like that it's paper tape, and so it takes glue really well, and it's dirt cheap. Then I'll add glue, and I can add this to my card. I'm just centering it in that rectangle, and I'm nearly done because we're skipping the oval. So I am just going to drop that ribbon on there, and you can see it ends up perfectly in the center of the card because of the careful planning we did. I'm using the Adulting Award sentiment, world's okayest sister. I promise she's going to think that's super funny. I'm using my removable adhesive just because it's the video, and that's what I like to show you guys is the option to change it, but later I'll add wet glue and it'll be on there for good. And that finishes up card number 1. It's super sturdy. Those magnets are really strong. You can see it kind of jump into place on the card. No, I'm not sticking this in the mail. There's no way. That chunky monkey would be like a package. But I am going to hand deliver it, and I think that it's worth it. For card number 2, we're going to switch things up. These are 2 very old die sets from Spellbinders. Let's Dance and I Dance. I thought they were gone for good, but they showed up again during the warehouse sale, and they're currently, if you're watching this as it comes out, they're half price. And probably when they're gone, they really are gone for good because I hadn't seen these in about a year. So I'm adding glue all over the back of the skirt. This comes from the girl set, the I Dance, and I'm gonna layer that up twice. I use pattern paper, it's kind of thin, and it's got some deep cut marks in it just to create texture, so I want it nice and sturdy. This is, I think, one of the original Dancin dies from Spellbinders, and I have found that the Dancin dies move better if the legs or whatever is swinging on the bottom is a little heavier. So I cut 2 from some heavyweight white cardstock. Because I'm extra, I went around them with like a skin tone colored alcohol marker just so it'll blend in a little better, but you could skip that. This is now like a chipboard piece. I'm also going around, ignore the part where I go around her ankle, just her toes. You probably could skip this as well, but I wanted to show you the option. Because it's a little thick, I didn't want the skin colored foot showing through the toe of the shoe, but actually there's enough cardstock here that it wasn't really a big deal. So I put glue on the base of the shoe and then I just lay her feet right on top, and then the toe of the shoe will go only in the front. I'll add my dots of glue and just kind of get those into place, but then I like to pick up die cuts like this and just kind of use my fingers to wiggle them in place. And what I found was that the cardstock, 100-pound cardstock, kind of bent around the chipboard foot and closed it up. Like, it was great. So now I have dancing legs with feet and a skirt. This is the ribbon that comes in the Let's Dance, which has like some man's legs and a beer mug of all things and a ribbon. He gets a #1 award ribbon. So we stole it, okay? There are 2 flags for the ribbon, and on the man with his suit, it kind of looks appropriate, but on the woman, I think they look small. So I have 2 1/2-inch strips of cardstock and I just taped them together. And I'm gonna make a mark right in the middle, right at a 1/4 inch and maybe a 1/4 inch up. And then I'm gonna use my scissors and I'm gonna cut through the middle towards that pencil dot and from the corner towards the pencil dot. Okay, so I removed a little triangle, and then I'll flip it over because I'm a righty and it's easier, and I will do the exact same thing. Last video I used a new banner punch from Spellbinders. I still prefer that, but I wanted to make sure to show you this. So here are my 2 flags, and I just want to make sure that they look okay with that skirt. There's a lot of a sort of A formation happening, and once I'm happy with it, I will stick my glue bottle in between those 2 flags and glue them together, and then I'll add the center on top. Now I can deal with that as a single piece. In the I Dance die set, she can hold this giant flower or a glue bottle or a coffee cup, and they're about the same size as this ribbon. So it's going to work really well. And her set also comes with a bunch of greenery. So I am taping temporarily my ribbon onto a piece of white cardstock, and then I've taped that temporarily onto my sticky mat, sticky side up. Then I can arrange these florals that aren't very big onto the sticky mat and make sure that that arrangement's going to look pretty good. Once I get everything arranged, I can sort of pull that ribbon out from underneath, and I can add that on top of my die cut pieces, okay? So I'm gonna be really careful. A lot of those die cuts don't make a lot of contact even with the sticky mat, and I'm gonna add just tiny little dots of glue. I'm also being careful to try not to get glue onto the sticky mat, but worse things have happened in my life, right? It's gonna be fine. I used the grid when I put that ribbon underneath the mat, so I know exactly where it needs to go on that grid when I glue it on top. I'm going to remove this very carefully. Again, some of those really didn't make a lot of contact with that ribbon, and I'm going to need to pop this up on foam on my card. So I'm adding another one of those circle pieces with a whole bunch of glue, right? It's not thick glue, but it's all over to make sure that nothing's going to fall out, and I'll just glue that onto the back. And now I have a single piece with all my greenery and my ribbon. We're going to make a shape card base using the Heartfelt Thanks and Scallop die set. And I'm going to go down just to the next scallop on one of these pieces, and then I will fold it backwards. I'm going to add glue all over the top, right? Just above that score line. And then I'll line up the 2 pieces. I've got my scoreboard out still, so I'll just stick that into the corner and try to make sure everything is aligned. I have 2 pieces of cardstock here. The blue one is 3.5 by 4 3/4, and the glitter cardstock is 3 3/8 by 4 5/8. If you can't tell, we've kind of thrown out the card sketch for this, but that's okay, right? I guess in some ways the base of this maybe is like the card sketch a little bit, kind of, but I wanted to use the sentiments. I wanted to find ways to stretch their usefulness. How might we put them together? I showed you how to use just regular dies to make a ribbon in the last video. Again, I'll link that below, and a link to the emergency card kit playlist so you can check out all the free printables. I am just laying this woman and her ribbon on top of my card, and I want to make sure my spacing's right, about the same above the ribbon as there is below the feet. I'm going to temporarily tape the feet to the skirt, and I'm going to fill in with a pencil where those feet go. Then I'm going to add glue to the back of my ribbon, so I'm attaching it to my skirt. Now the ribbon, the skirt, everything at the top half is a single piece. Then I'll use my pencil again to make a mark on the card base right where the legs are going to go. I'm adding a dot of glue before my foam only because this is glitter cardstock. If it was regular cardstock, I wouldn't worry about it. Then I am cutting just a little piece of foam, sort of a square, and then I'm going to round the very top of it. Not entirely necessary, but I think it moves better. I put the exact same foam behind the woman. Really important, it needs to be the same height, okay? And then I made sure that the legs have room to swing. There's almost no foam towards the bottom. Make sure that your item can move. Then I'll add a little bit of glue all over everything, mostly because it's glitter cardstock. And I will place this onto my card and just let it set for a minute so everything has time to dry. Her legs are moving, everything looks good. I have shrunk down our sentiments again. So here's our PDF. And when I go to print, most printers have an option like this. I'm going to expand to see more settings, and then pages per sheet will be set to 2. Okay. Then I'm going to tell it what pages I want. I'm doing 2 and 3, but you could do 2 pages that aren't right next to each other. I like the circles that don't have the printed circle around them. Your printer settings might look different, but most printers have this function. Then I printed it out and got this sheet with 2 sets of sentiments on a single piece of 8.5 by 11. So I just cut it in half to make it easier to work with. There's a little circle die that comes with that ribbon, and it is too small, right? None of these sentiments really fit in there, but it is a little bit less than an inch. I pulled out my 1-inch punch. You guys, I still have all my old punches, like all of my old punches, and the 1-inch punch works beautifully here. So this one said no. That's it. It's just a card and an award for saying no. And I added it with my removable adhesive. You guys, my brain, I didn't even think to try to make her dance for you again, but I promise she does, and it works really well. I just love it. We're going to make a super quick final mini card. This is the nested postage labels and tags, and it cuts a whole bunch of different postage pieces in a variety of sizes and then stitched rectangles, which I love. Stitching scallops, like that's where I started in card making, and now we're back. I'm going to take this to my scoreboard and align it at the top, and I'm just going to score right at that first cutout. Okay, I don't need a ton of space as long as I use a good glue. That I will line these 2 pieces up and glue them together at the top. Again, I'm going to stick them right into my scoreboard to try to help square those up, but that's it. I already assembled my ribbon the same way I did on the last one. I cut 1/2-inch flags instead of using the ones in the die, and I'm going to glue that right on top. This is the smallest of the postage pieces, and I like that the ribbon sort of overhangs it a little bit. And then this is from the Favorites Kit, volume 25. And it says, in banana years, you're bread. That feels like an award to me. It didn't feel finished, so this is my favorite extra circle die set. This is from Waffle Flower. It's called the Additional Circles. And so this is 1 1/8 of an inch. It has all the circles at an 1/8 inch, 3/8, 5/8, 7/8. And it just gives me another set of options when I go to put things together. I'm going to glue that onto the card, and this little mini card is done, right? Just like a cute, snarky little birthday card to leave on someone's desk at work, leave for a sibling. Oh, I love it so much. I would love to know which of these 3 cards is your favorite. If you're interested in the free printable, all I ask is that you subscribe to my channel. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified every time there's a new free kit, and check the description box for instructions. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.